Here we go, Chevra. We're going to pick it up on the bottom of Dalam and the base from the two dots. A quick 90-second running start before we get into the new Gemara. And we'll encourage in the chat those who are not here to try to make up and learn what they missed. Says the Gemara. Shading looking for the Makar. That a sukkah has to be at least 10 tefachim tall. We'll begin a preface with the question that was bothering many of the Chavra, which the Rishonim ask. Why don't we just say Dira Srucha, like we saw in the previous Gemara, and it's a good kasha. But that withstanding, or notwithstanding, we're looking for a Makar in the Torah. Says Gemara Manola Mitmar, Rav. Oh, sorry, Dalet Amud Beis, 6 lines to the bottom, the 2 dots. Minolim, Itmar, Rav Chanina, Rav Yechon, Rav Chaviva Masnu. All of them learn. The Gemara parenthetically comments, B'kul Seder Mayed, in the entirety of Seder Mayed, Kol Ki Zugod, whenever we have this group, these 4 Gedalim, Chalufi Rav Yechon, Rav Yonasan, we swap Rav Yechonon for Rav Yonasan. And what do they all say? Aron Tishav Kaparis Tefach. The Aron was 9, the Kaparis little of the Aron was 1 extra Tefach, Arekan Asara. That makes it 10 Tfachim. Uksiv. And says in the Torah of an Adli L'Chasham, and I'm making myself known to you there, and I'm going to speak to you, Mel Kapayres, and I'm going to speak to you from on top of the Kapayres. V'tanya, and we learned in a Bryce on the top line of Hey Amid Aleph Rav Yasi Aimer. Teaches Rav Yasi Me'olam Lo Yardu Shechina, the Shechina never descended, went down Lamata beneath. V'lo Yalu Moshe, Moshe never ascended above. V'eliyahu Lamarin into the heavens. Shenemar. The heavens is for God, the land is for man. So what does that prove? It doesn't prove anything. Says the top Rashi, 2 lines from the top. Shema mina lamala me'asara mifsika rishus. For the fact that Hashem descends to 10 and man ascends to 10, this meeting place, this juncture between heaven and earth, God and man, the meeting place which was the top of the Aron with the Kapayres, must be the definition of Rishos. If you open up a Webster's dictionary and say, what is the minimum Rishos? 10 Tfachim. Source, God doesn't descend below, man doesn't descend above. Where do we know that from? From the Aron. So when we picture the Aron, we have this 10 Tefach box with the lid on top, 9 plus 1, this 10 Tefach item, and right there we see the Shechina going to there, man going to there. That means this is the minimum area for a Rishos, and that's the reason why a sukkah has to be at least 10 Tefach. Beautiful. Says the Gemara, I do agree that it is a little bit of a difficult Makar. You'll see in a few moments we're going to fall off of this. Now the Gemara, parenthetically almost, asks a few kashas. You just told me God does not descend below and man does not descend above. So a quick series of questions. Asks the Gemara, really the Shechina does not come below. But the Pasuk says, Hashem came down Har Sinai. Answers the Gemara, yeah, he came down. He stopped within 10 Tfachim of Har Sinai. Ask the Gemara further. The Pasuk says, and his legs, referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, stood on that day Har Zeisim. God stood on Har Zeisim. Answers the Gemara, 2 kashas. Okay, kasha number 3, let's move on to man. The Pasuk says, Moshe went up to God. Answers the Gemara, Lamata Me'asar. The Pasuk says, Eliyahu ascended in a whirlwind to heaven. Answers the Gemara, Lamata Me'asar. The Pasuk says, he was holding on to the Pnei Akisa, the face of the throne. Parshes alav ananoi va'amar. He spreads the cloud upon him and he says, so what do we see? What do we learn out from here? We see that Hashem separated himself from the radiance of Shechina. So what do we see? And the cloud was upon him. So what do we see? That Hashem clearly, seemingly, is down on earth on Moshe Rabbeinu. Answers the Gemara, Lamata Me'asara, was underneath 10. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't really in the heavens. Mikol Malkaim, what do you mean? It says, Me'achaz B'nei Kisei, it says Moshe Rabbeinu was holding on to the Kisei HaKavod, Hashem's throne. Clearly, he was in heaven. Says Gemara, no kasha. The Kisei HaKavod happened to have been floating down on earth. The Kisei HaKavod whirled all the way down ad asara until 10 tefachim and Naked Pei, and there Moshe Rabbeinu grabbed hold to it. Okay, so 7 kashas, 7 terutzim, agreed, not the most kishmak, but That's the way the Gemara goes. Says the Gemara. Now let's go back to the root Mikar. Bishlama asks the Gemara. We're 10 lines from the wide lines. First line is Asara. Ask the Gemara. This is the new part of the Gemara. Bishlama Aron Tisha. The fact that the Aron is 9 Tvachim, I understand. The Chsev says in the Torah, Va'asu Aron Atzei Shitim. And you have to create the Aron of Shitim wood. Amosayim v'chetzi arkai. 2.5 amos its length. Va'ama v'chetzi rachtai. 1.5 amos its width. Va'ama v'chetzi kamasli. And 1.5 amos its height. So how does that teach me that it was 9? So if we were to peek at Rashi, Rashi tells us that how big was Rashi doesn't tell us here. Rashi tells us down here. How big was a amma? If you look at Rashi, the last 5 words of Rashi on Dalet Amud Beis, peek back at Rashi, last 4 words, Rashi says an amma is bas shisha tfachim. So an amma is 6 tfachim. So if the height of the aron is amma v'chetzi, 1.5 ammas, what does that mean? 6 plus 3 is 9. Simple math, very good. But what's the kasha? How do we know the kapiris was 1 tefach? Ditani, Rav Chanina explains Rav Chanina. So we're probably all thinking, how do you know the kapiris was tefach? I don't know. There's probably a pasuk somewhere that says that, and we just don't know it. Says the Gemara, nope, there's no pasuk at all. Ditani Rav Chanina, Kol HaKelim, all vessels. Sha'asa Moshe Rabbeinu made. Nasna behen Torah, the Torah gives midas arkan, their length, umidas rachvan, and their width, umidas kalimasan, and their height. But kapires, the lid of the aron, again, this is a brisa talking, midas arkai, the length, umidas rachvai, and the width. Nasna, the Torah writes. But midas kaimasai, lai nasna. The Torah does not write how tall, literally, or we should say thick. Again, the kapiris was, let's just be clear. We have the box, and then you have the lid with the kruvim on top of it. That lid, how thick was that lid? The Torah doesn't say. So says the brisa, 3 lines from the wide lines. Say, go out, velomad, and learn mi pachais shebe kelim, from the smallest of the kelim. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, va'asisa loy misgares, and you should make for it a misgares, a border, tefach saviv, a tefach around it. So the smallest kelim seemingly is this misgares, is this border around it. What is this around? If we look at Rashi, it's around the, I think, misbeach. No, it's the shulchan. Thank you. With the shulchan, you know what? You want to grab one of the picture books down there? Good, thank you. The shulchan had, it's one part of the shulchan that we don't really visualize, had like a lattice work edge around the lip of it. That's called this misgares, and that was 1 tefach. So the Gemara wants to say, if the minimum size, you have it in the back of your Gemara? So geschmack. All of them have it? You have it in yours?
The blue eyes will have it. No. The blue eyes.
Oh, because this one they created just for us. It's in here?
No, this isn't from.
Oh, yeah.
All the blue guys have the pictures of that.
No, I have blue ones from Kinyan Succah. We didn't give out the blue ones because those have the double Gemara in it.
I got this blue one from here.
From where?
From here.
What's here mean?
This year from Kinyan.
Right. So because originally I gave out the red ones, then I gave out those. Oh, give out. Okay, good.
Big discovery the other day.
Yeah, it's like a kid when you realize in the back of the Chumash has those pictures. Oh, it's a Yom Tov. Extends another 2 davenings in your life. Miskares. Right over here, this one. Miskares. Miskares. This is the Miskares. This is the shulchan, the legs of the shulchan. On top of this goes where the showbread goes, the lechem upon him. No, Rav Yosef, my nails look shiny. I don't do my nails. So don't think I just got a manicure. It's just the camera, okay?
It looks like.
Listen, whether I hold you allowed to get a manicure or not is a different story. Lemais, I didn't get one, so I don't want to. No one should be nervous.
What about the crown on the Aron? Didn't the Aron have a crown?
Similar. Similar, but the crown and the aroin
I only know
here.
my son is learning this.
No, so the crown and the aroin was part of the papyrus.
Isn't there a measurement for that crown?
Well, this is where it all comes from, right here. That
Plus,
crown.
plus the measurement for the crown.
No. On the aroin. Well, we'll see. Hold on one second. You could be about to talk about what we're talking about. Let's do the psukim right here. So first, the Gemara says, let's learn it out from. Vasisloi miskeres tefach savif. Ma lahalon tefach. Avkan tefach. Just like over there, it was a tefach. So too by us, it is a tefach. Rabbi Yosef, I think what you're pointing out is the pasuk says to make a miskeres. We just don't know how thick the miskeres is. We know from the shulchan it was a tefach, so here it's a tefach. Beautiful. So says the Gemara, that's how we know that the kapayres was a tefach. But ask the Gemara 1 second. V'neilaf mikelim gufayu. Maybe again, the first time you learn this, it's fascinating. You would think the kalim in the Beis Hamikdash, we should know the measurements, but the Gemara is saying we don't know. It's just fascinating. Says the Gemara, we'll see how fast this goes. Why do you the nail me kalim gufaya? Says the Gemara, you're learning out that the thickness of the aroin is a tefach. Why? Because the thickness of this crown around the shulchan is a tefach. Says Gemara, wait. Why don't we learn it from the kalim itself? Answers the Gemara. Tafasta meruba loi tafasta. A very important klal. If you grab too much, you don't grab it all. But tafasta mu'at tafasta. You know, when dad says, you stop asking, you're getting nothing, that's this klal. And it's a real klal. Anytime you need a mikar, we don't know something. So you have a choice. Go for a bigger or the smaller one. Well, why mecha taste the bigger one? You have to take the smallest possible. Tafasta meruba loi tafasta mu'at tafasta. Okay, so far we want to learn now from the Miskaris. Says the Gemara, 1 second, there's another keli in the Beis Hamikdash. You know what it is? It's called the tzitz. The tzitz is that which went on the forehead of the Kohen Gadol. In case you didn't know what the tzitz is, I think this one we all do know. Tzitz goes on the forehead of the Kohen Gadol. Says the Gemara, we should learn now from the tzitz. Nail of me tzitz, the Tanya. Tzitz, daimekim in tas. The tzitz was similar to a tas, a plate, shalzav of gold. V'roichav, how wide was the tzitz? Beis etzba'is, 2 fingers thick. And mukaf, it's surrounded. Me'oizen la'oizen, from ear to ear. V'kasav alav, and on the tzitz, what did it write? Beis sheet in 2 lines. Yod hey milmala. V'kodesh lamed limata. That's the first shita. The second shita, and when it says Yud Hey, it means Yud K Vav K, means the whole Shem Hashem. V'amer Rav Eliezer bar Rav Yesi, ani reisi b'roimi v'kasev alav, and it said on it, not like you just said, Kodesh Lashem b'shita achas, was 1 line. Kodesh Lashem was all in 1 line. So what's the kash of the Gemara? You're learning out the thickness of the kapyrus from the thickness of the crown on the shulchan. Wait, maybe it's not a full tefach. Maybe it's only 2 fingers thick, like the tzitz was on the kohen gadol. What's the answer? The answer is, if you think about it, you'll get this one. The tzitz was a kli. What's a tzitz? It was a beg and more, or even more. It was an adornment. Says the Gemara, like you just said. Donin kli mi kli. We're trying to figure out the thickness of the kapyrus, the lid of the aroin. Vein donin kli mi tachshit. But don't learn out the kli from a tachshit, from an adornment. Says the Gemara. Okay. V'neilaf mizer. Which Rav Yosef, this is what you were asking before. Let's learn it out from the zer, from the crown. Which crown? Rashi points out there were 2 crowns. There was a crown on the aroin, and there was a crown on the mizbeach. Says the Gemara, Te'amar mar, how thick was the zer? Was a mashu, was only a mashu, was a little bit. So how do you know it's a full tefach of the kapayers? Maybe it was just a little bit. Answers the Gemara, done in kli may kli. We learn out one kli from the next. Ve'ein done in kli may hechsher kli. We don't learn out the kli from a hechsher kli. The crown wasn't a full-fledged kli. So what's the obvious kasha? We just said a moment ago the miskeres was a kli. We don't really understand. The miskeres and the zer sound like the exact same thing. Says the Gemara, Yachi miskeres nami achsher kliu. It's the same thing. So answers the Gemara, miskartoi lemata haisa. The miskeres was underneath. So if you look at this picture, this really shows you what it is. The miskeres was on the bottom. And because the miskeres was on the bottom on the legs, that makes it more of a proper function of the kli.
Was it attached to the legs?
It was attached. It was on the legs itself. It was mamish the frame, and that's why it's actually a kli. Whereas the zer, which we don't really have a picture of the zer in the mizbeach, was more just like a design on it. Says the Gemara. One sec. That's a machlekes. It is good according to Mandam that says miskar toy lemata. He saw was underneath. Alamandama miskar toy lemala. Haisa ma'ikala meimar. Hi, hechsher kli. It's only a hechsher. It's only a preparation kli. It's not a real kli itself. Elon, what this will conclude. Danin davar shenasna ba'yitayra mida. Let's learn out from something that the Torah gives a measurement. Midavar shenasna ba'yitayra mida. Va'al, meaning the Gemara is going back to original kasha. Went back and forth and back, but we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and we don't understand. Why don't we learn out from the tzitz? From where do you know? You learn out from the surrounding miscaris, maybe from the tzitz. Says the Gemara, learn out for something that the Torah gives a measurement. Says the Gemara, let's read it inside. Eladan and davar shenaslu b'Torah mida, midavar shenaslu b'Torah mida. Va'al yoichichu tzitz. Don't ask for the tzitz, 2 lines to the bottom, v'zero the zer. Why? Sheloi naslu b'Torah mida klal. The Torah never gave a measurement of them. So how do we know what the measurement of them is? How do we know what it is? How do you know that tzitz is 2 fingers? How do we know? Someone here explains. How do we know? How do we know how big the tzitz was? The Rishonim explain. I think the Lachlam should be seen.
Look at the back of our scroll.
They looked at the picture book. No, I think Taisus over here. Taisus sort of. Taisus says, right, that which said it sits his 2 fingers, very good, thank you. So it says al metzchai, and the shear of your forehead is 2 fingers. Very good. The Riva argues, very good. We can stop over here, but this is source number 1. We could review the whole Amud in 1 line. What's the source? That 10 Tvachim, like we learned the previous year. The Aron was 9 plus 1 of the Kapairos. How do you know the Aron was 9? That's a pasuk. Amma v'chetzi and Amma 6 v'chetzi, 6 and 3 is 9. Beautiful. How do you know the Kapairos was a Tevach? The answer is we learn it from the Miskeres. Why don't we learn it from anything else? Either because it's not hechsher kli, or because it's an adornment, or because it's not explicit, those measurements by the tzitz, and this is explicit. This is answer number 1. Ravuna, which Amir Tashem will pick up from on Monday, is going to have a separate answer. B'siyata de Shemaya.